Hi, everyone, and welcome again to one of our night sky tours. We have with us CTC Astronomer Warren Hart. Hey, Warren. And
Hey,
he is going to go ahead and talk about what's happening in our March sky. And boy, is March jam packed with lots of fun events. And so, without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and let Warren take it away.
well, good afternoon. Appreciate those of you that have decided to come and join us today. And like Cindy said, the March calendar for this year has a number of unique events that are listed there. So let's take a look. Uh, First of all, how do you get to the calendar? So, Cindy, let's go through the process that you have there of them logging on and then getting to, there we go.
All righty. Um, so this is on our library website and research study guides, astronomy, Mayborn Science Theater. So that is where we're working from when we do these night sky tours.
Okay, good.
And
All
this is
right.
all the fun shows, the latest shows at the Mayborn Science Theater, information, our eclipse countdown clock,
Hmm,
virtual night sky tours, fun activities, all kind of fun things. And so
all
this is
right.
where we're going to be working from.
Very good. Thank you, Cindy. Well, let's bring up our calendar so the people can see. And if you'll scroll up there to the first page of it, and you'll see that there's an overlap, if you will, of the last 2 days of February. And so to include in there some information, and wanted to bring your attention to the overlap there of the end of February and the 1st of March. And so I put the title of it, the heads up, if you will, in red. And as you can read down through there, there are those three items, uh, if you will, the planet Mercury, the planet Saturn, and then the moon. And there's each time that they will rise on the eastern horizon. And what I've listed, if you read there, it says number one, the planet Mercury rises at 5:55 a.m. and it's 1.65 degrees from the next one. Number two, the planet Saturn, and which is rising just 3 minutes later. And Saturn is about what it says there, 8 minutes, which is a little longer, if you will. And we would see on down in the angle, but the time wise, it comes to the moon, and that is 38 minutes later from Saturn, and then we come to the sun. That is another 22 minutes when it rises above the eastern horizon. So, if you were going to do this, you get up on Tuesday, March the 1st, and prior to 5:55, you'd look to the east for a flat horizon. Don't The trees and buildings would bother. You want a flat horizon, and look and watch, and then a this yellowish circle there looking like, and that's Mercury. And then in just a couple of minutes, let's see, 3 minutes there, then Saturn comes up, and then there's later will be the moon. So they're close together. Now, I wanted you to look at this and consider that, because we're going to have another one that's going to happen also, but it's in March itself. So let's continue on this first week of March there, and we will have the answers to the February puzzles, and also we'll post the new March puzzles, and they will be available on the first day of March. And uh, the puzzles, I was just telling Cindy, I'll be finishing up the puzzles here in right after our time here. And so she'll have them, and then she'll be able to have them ready to post on Tuesday, March the 1st there. Oh, each time the answer shows up for the previous month and the new puzzles for that current month. And that's the way we've been doing it there. So there's some the back issue, I say issues, the back puzzles and their answers. To get practice in doing, go back to an earlier puzzle and work it, and then you can immediately then cross-check with your answer of it and get the practice of knowing how to do each one. Each puzzle takes a different format to solve, pardon me, the puzzle there. So there they are, the cryptic quote, the drop quote, and the hidden word Sudoku. All right, now also on Tuesday, we have, and I put there in light blue, the link to get you right to the website that Cindy had mentioned there earlier, the Astronomy and Space Theater web part of the CTC library. And this is also that March, in the evening, the constellation called Carina, and it's the keel of the mythical ship Argo Navis. And the times to view any of the constellations that I post here, and also in watching, is after sunset, and then all the way through, if you want to, the next morning. So you have the opportunity to view Carina from the evening after sunset of Tuesday, March the 1st, all the way through midnight when Wednesday begins to Wednesday morning prior to the rising of the sun. So we have that. Let's take a look at Carina there, if you would, please, Cindy.
Um, let me find it because
Okay, that's
we
fine.
don't have Karina. Was that in the week? There we go.
Yeah, you have it.
Now I have it.
There you go. I understand.
It is coming.
Okay. Have to show the primary colors there in the circles.
Yes. There we
There
go.
we go. Carina, the keel of the ship Argo Navis. And there's more information. I mentioned to you that it is the third brightest constellation of all of the other 88 constellations, the 89 areas in the sky. And in this late spring, early summer, I will explain to you what the difference is. So you'll have to stay with us to Warren says there's 88 constellations, but there's what? 89 spherical. What? Okay. Come to, keep watching in later months and I'll explain it to you. And this Carina has an interesting part of an object there. You can see it in red. That is known as the false cross, FALSE, the false cross. And that is not the one you would want to navigate with because you can see the diagonal on it from upper left to lower right. If you're trying to use that to help you point toward the South Pole, you're way off and you will definitely be lost. So just be cautious of that. And there we have it. And also I have on there, you see in a brown line, there is our southern horizon. That from here at the planetarium latitude, everything from that dashed line on up toward the north, we can see. But there, the dashed line is our flat horizon looking south, and everything below there you will not see any time of the year unless, unless you go further south and you then would bring up some more of the southern horizon. So we have that. Let's scroll to the second page there, Cindy. Every constellation has a second page, and well, that's also uh, for those who are going to view from somewhere other than at the planetarium. And here's this information that's on there related to what's on the first page, and then you can use that to help you to understand what you're looking at on that first page. So each constellation does have this third page here. All right, thank you very much, Cindy. Let's go on and let's get into to Wednesday. And we're going to see on Wednesday, we have what is called a new moon. And it's going to begin, it's what's called a waxing crescent phase. Waxing is an old English term, and it means to grow in strength or size. So you would see there the little thin sliver of the illuminated side of the moon that we could see. That's the crescent. And as time goes on, it's each night, or you're going to see more and more of the illuminated side of the moon, and that's why we call it that. It's waxing, it's growing, and that's still a crescent. It'll be a crescent for a while. By the way, you can take the crescent and make it in your mind a bow, like for a bow and arrow. And then you place the arrow in the center part of the crescent, pointing in the direction that the crescent, that the bow is bent, there pointing out like you would have an arrow. And that simulated arrow that you put there will point you directly to the sun, even though it may be below the horizon. Now we have another constellation here, and that is Sextans, and that's the Navigator Sextant. And let's take a look at it. I normally put on there, and I failed to do, but I have a picture of the sextant, and so you would get an idea of what it looks like. Well, anyway, here we have, and what we have added here in this page are two things. First, you see in the green line horizontal going from the left all up, that is the ecliptic. That is the path of the sun and the planets and the moon through the sky. And when I say ecliptic, there should be an astronomical word that should come to your mind. And if you think of it, what it might be, then uh, do on the chat, tell us what you think it would be, and we'll see there your answer. Also, you notice that sextans is right on the equator, and so it would be called an equatorial constellation. In other words, that top part of it there is in the northern hemisphere, and the southern part there is in the southern hemisphere. So it is straddling the equator, and it's an equatorial constellation. This is a very basic constellation, not a whole lot about it. And the other page that would be there, page 2, will just show the few little stars. There's 5 of them, not a whole lot. But there is, and I've got some more information there for you in the green. that you can read through and explain what you're talking about, or what you're looking at and what's on the page. Okay, thank you, Cindy. Let's go on, and we'll skip Thursday of the first week, and we'll go on to Friday of this first week, and we're going to have uh, two constellations. And the first one is Leo Minor, and as you see, that is the lion cub. And so there it is. And another thing we're going to have on Leo Minor is that you see there in the, I think I said that's magenta, the color, that is the planetarium, our latitude. And so that is what is directly above us when you look in the sky, directly overhead. So Leo Minor, as time goes on throughout the night, it would go directly overhead. You would not look for it down on the horizon, the southern horizon or the northern. You will look, eventually you'll look up as it rises in the sky, and it'll be directly overhead. And then just below it in the dashed line is the Tropic of Cancer. And there's its latitude. And that is the furthest north that the sun will go in the summer. And as it rises in the sky, coming into the northern hemisphere, that it will come up and it will be pretty close to us in the sky at high noon, but it will not be right directly over us. You'd have to go down to that latitude, 23.44 degrees north, and then it would be directly over you. If you look further south there, just a little bit on that first screen, there you see there is the blue line for the ecliptic. And there it is. And we are going farther along on traveling along the ecliptic as we go. Now, also on here is another constellation, and this is Hydra, the female water snake, and it is very unique here. It is, notice up there at the top, it is the 71st brightest, but it is also the largest of all the constellations in the sky. Actually, we are looking here at this time, we are looking in present and talking about the middle part of the snake. We've had the last month and 2 months, we've been working our way through Hydra, but we hadn't talked about it because we're not yet on the center part of it right there. The CVP is its central viewing point as far as talking about it. And it's going to continue on another couple months. It just goes and goes and goes. Now we can go to the second page, and you see down here, there's the information on it and talking about the different things. A lot of stars there because going along the constellation, there's depicting each of the corners where the snake twists and turns. And if we go back up to the first page, there's one more little line, and there you see we have the Tropic of, oh, Capricorn. Well, Capricorn is the tropic in the southern hemisphere, and it's the one where in the summer, late summer, and on down into the fall, there in September, that's the furthest south the sun will be overhead here on Earth. And of course, for us at high noon in September, the sun is much further down. It's not as close as high in the sky. It's lower here in the sky. So that is Centaurus and also Hydra, both of those in that same night, and that would give you a lot to look for. That's the end of the first week, so let's take a look at the second week. And we're going to have another constellation, and it is Chameleon, the Chameleon. And we will take a look at its page. And here we come. There it is. And it's further south. It's one constellation away from the South Pole. So I would think you would understand we're not going to see it from here. And to point that out, I put up at the very top, there was just enough room for it. There is our southern horizon. So on the upper left of that corner of that map, there's two brighter stars, the larger dark circles that we could see, and that's part of Crux, the true Southern Cross. And notice if you connected that top black dot and the lower one to the low and a little bit to the right of it, draw a line, that's going to point you pretty well directly on down to the South Pole. So that's the one you navigate from, not the other one. And then also the other thing, since that is our horizon up there in the listing the southern horizon, as far as we can see, everything there that we cannot see would be what we would call our southern circumpolar area that we will never see unless you go south to get closer to the South Pole. And then down at the very bottom down there, got a circle around it, a green circle there for you, and that's where the southern celestial pole would be. And we will find, you notice to the left of it, there's a constellation called Octans, and we'll get that at another time. And in that constellation is the Polaris, the pole star for the southern pole, the South Pole there. And you'll see there's a difference between it and our Polaris we have here in the North Pole. So thank you very much, Cindy, for that. And let's continue on. In the second week, we're going to skip then clear over to Wednesday. And Wednesday, another two constellations. They're just coming thick and heavy here right now. So we have Ursa Major, that's the big bear, and then we have Leo the lion, and that we have that. Both of those are well known. So let's look, if we will, please, Cindy, there you go. We have then our Ursa Major. There it is. There's its pattern on the sky. And you can kind of, by connecting the green lines, the dots, the stars, you can begin to get an idea of symbolism of a polar bear. And notice on the polar bear, he seems to have a saddle right behind his neck, but I declined to volunteer to ride on the back of the polar bear's neck. That's not one thing I would want to do. Now, what do we have? Just above and going through the constellation area, there is our planetarium, our northern horizon that's on this there along. We can see on above it, but that's our horizon. And so notice what I put in there. The northern circumpolar spherical area, just like the other. Now, this is the reverse of the southern. When I mentioned to you the southern, that region we will never see. This region, from that line on up to the North Pole and actually on over a ways, we will always see every night of the year. So everything inside there we will always see. Look at what we would call the Big Dipper, the asterism there, and you'll see the upper corner of the pot star number 10. That's the only star of the Big Dipper that we will see every night of the year. And the rest of the Big Dipper will, as time goes on throughout the night and at different nights, we will not see. It'll be below our horizon in certain times of the year. So we're going to have to know and learn how to find the North Star from another constellation. We've talked about that in the past, and we'll continue on helping to for those to find our northern star. Now, also notice down at the bottom of the constellation there, the line, and there is our planetarium's latitude. So when it's visible, it is very large and it's just above our horizon. Now, if you see there where I have labeled stars numbers 12 and 13, and then I look up at to the upper left, 7 and 8, and 2 and 3. Those three sets are called the footpads of the bear. Now, the fourth one is behind one of the other of those stars, we would just say there for the bear. For whatever reason, we don't see, maybe you've got its foot up in the air or something. But anyway, that's what people call those two stars, and they're easy to identify in the sky. And you go from one set to the other to the other. And those are called the footpads of the Big Bear. And then notice on further south, we would have, there's our Tropic of Cancer. We're in the northern hemisphere. And there in the bottom right corner of the map, there is still the ecliptic as it's going through the path of the sun. So you can tell then the sun is not ever going to be up in Ursa Major, the Big Bear. And we can go on to the second and then the third page, Cindy, if we do that. There's this map if you're somewhere else other than the planetarium, and go on. And here you go, and there's a lot of information I've put on there. And hopefully there would be of interest, and reading would give you some additional things to look for in the night sky there. The one thing you're not going to be able to see is that first part of the interesting information, the Hubble Deep Field North, HDFN. And you'll get the information on it, and you see the second sentence. This was done in December of 1995. Now, if we go back up, let's go to first page there, Cindy. We'll see what we're talking about. And there it is up above. It's in our circumpolar area, but we can't see it because it is so dim. And I should have a picture for you. I apologize for that, but there is a picture of showing what is there in that little, that's where the center of that X is, or that cross, if you will. The director of Hubble Deep Field has at his discretion a number of amount of time that he can say to the people to point the Hubble telescope in a certain direction, and he wants to look at it. So they did some studies, and they found that there is an area in the sky that from here on Earth, with all of our telescopes we have here on the professional telescopes and all here on Earth, when you look in that part of the sky, it is empty. But when you then do like Hubble he did, He stayed on it for, I believe it was 11 days, taking pictures constantly throughout that time. And they finally got a picture. And there's somewhere around 3,000 plus other galaxies that are in that little part. To give you a perspective of how big that is, if you would pull out of your pocket a Roosevelt dime and you turn it so that you are looking at Roosevelt, President Roosevelt, on the side of that dime, hold it at arm's length, and in the engraving, find his eyeball. That's how big that area is in the sky. So, those are things that were created in the past, but we have never seen until we found them in 1995. So interesting. All right, let's see what else we have. And let's go on, and we're going to have Leo the lion. Now, let's go to Leo. And hold on there just a second, Cindy. Go back to where you were. I want to point out something on the Ursa Major. Yeah, hold on. That's good. See the pot of the Big Dipper. And there you can use the pot of the Big Dipper, and notice both sides kind of angle in. The top of the pot is larger and the smaller on the bottom one. And if you scroll up just a little bit on the page, that's good. You'll see as you go, if you go down following those two lines as they continue go to get together, pointing to a point, you're going to pass by, going south, there is Leo Minor. And further south is the constellation of Leo itself. So you can use the Big Dipper to point on the two stars, 9 and 10, to help you find Polaris up to the north. But you can also use 9 and 10 and 15 and 16 to point toward the south, and that'll get you Leo Minor and also get you Leo. So let's go to Leo now, Cindy, if you would please.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. It's going.
Okay.
There we go.
Drop the
We
ball
got it.
on that one. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. All right.
Okay.
Notice we have on the upper left corner of the chart, the map there is Ursa Major, and there's that last, or the one of the footpads. You remember that? And then if you pointed and going south out of the Big Dipper, the pot, then you would go past Leo Minor, and you're going to come down now to Leo the Lion. So find something in the sky that you're familiar with and figure out and make up your own pointer systems. I have a lot of them and I can share them with you, but you also uh, determine and figure out and make out your own pointer systems to things you want to go see. Well, here is Leo the lion, and notice he is not right above us, but he's close because there's our latitude right up there, and that is going directly overhead. So Leo, when we look to the south, is going to be pretty up close to the directly overhead in the sky. And then also going by there, the top part of him, there's our Tropic of Cancer. And then you come down and you see that he is on the ecliptic. And then, oh, we have another part of him that is straddling the equator. So this one is unique. He is an equatorial constellation, but he's also an ecliptical constellation. So there are some that are ecliptical only, and others that are equatorial only, and then there are a few that are both equatorial and ecliptical, and we have them there, and then you see the equator. Now, you see that red arrow over there on the left and something called Icarus? Wonder what that means. Well, let's go to our last page, if you will, Cindy. Let's see if we find anything about an Icarus. Do you see anything that talking about Icarus? Well, there it is. It's listed just by its name, and you go on over, and how far away is it? 14.4 billion light years. And what is significant, this year, that is the most distant individual star yet detected. Now, the reason I say that, we can see constellate galaxies, I'll get it right here, galaxies that are uh, many billions of light years away, but currently our technology has not allowed us to separate those stars like we can see our Milky Way stars separately. That as time goes on, technology is going to improve, but this was on a very unique astronomical event that the scientists that were observing were able to actually pick out this star individually. And so that is the most distant individual star yet detected. And you have it there. And then on down in interesting information, I give you again all the other about the ecliptic, the equator, the Tropic of Cancer, and all of that information. So those are two major constellations, again, on one day here on that we have on Wednesday the 9th. So let's go back to the calendar. There it is. And then we go on the 10th, and we have what we call a first quarter moon. Remember, let's scroll up a little bit on the page there on first page. There you see just above it on the second Tuesday, there is our new moon. And so a little right around 7 days later, here we come, 7 1/4 days. And then we have our first quarter moon. But there's also an unofficial name for a quarter moon, a dichotomy. And that word, if you look it up, it means to some object you or whatever you divide in half. And that's what you will see for a first quarter moon. You will see the illuminated side part of it, and you will see the darkened side, and that splits it, the circle, into half and half. Now, also at that time, this moon is the farthest of our apogee moons for this year. Now, apogee means far away. And so when it's far away, is it large or small in comparison to being closer to Earth?
Smaller, right?
It would be smaller. The further away it goes, it is smaller. So it's the farthest, but it's not the largest. And so if it's the farthest, it's going to be the smallest also of that time. And there you have it. I give you also two different ways of mentioning the distance from Earth to the moon. Now, there's the miles, but I thought it would be interesting. you could place from Earth to the moon 32 more Earths in between, and that's how far away the moon is from us. Now, on Saturday the 12th, to finish up the second week, the sun in its path on the ecliptic, now we can't see it when it does these things, it then enters a new constellation, another constellation, not a new one, but another constellation. So it has gone from, and up on the very first page, go scroll up there on the first page just a little bit, Cindy. There you go. Look over on February the 27th. That's not the correct date for it, but the sun is currently for us right now. It's in the constellation called Aquarius. So down here on the 12th, then we have the sun will leave Aquarius and goes into the constellation of Pisces. And that's what that information tells us. Okay, let's go to the second page. And what's going to happen on Sunday the 13th? Well, guess what you get to do?
Daylight savings time again.
Yeah, you get to get up at 2 in the morning and make sure you change all your clocks. No, we do it Saturday evening around 10 or 11 o'clock and do that. And the old theme to say, to help you to remember, you're going to spring forward. So you're going to add an hour. And we change from Central Standard Time to Central Daylight Time at that time. And we're going to be in that clear into September. Now, let's look at Wednesday, pardon me, the 16th. And an interesting thing will happen for us on that day. Notice that our sun rises at 7:40 in the morning. What time does it set that same day?
Same time.
7:40 p.m.
Exactly. Yeah.
So for that day, this year, we will have 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness. Okay. Now let's go on. Now the moon has still been traveling, and we get more of it we can see. And then on the 18th, we have what we call our full moon. And there you have the information about it. Now it was doing a waxing crescent phase, and then it became a waxing gibbous phase on that. Gibbous is Latin for hump. Think of the hump on a camel. So waxing gibbous, it's been doing that, and then finally it gets to its full illumination for one side that we can see. That's the full moon, and it's going to continue, and now it's going to start decreasing in its illumination. The phase is the process is just the time there at 2:19 in the morning, and also at a certain point, a place in the sky. That's the phase, but it's kind of makes everybody think, and people will say then the phase is from one quarter to another. No, the phase is that precise point in time, but if you will, I want to say it is changing then throughout that whole time. And some people still want to call that a phase, but they can do as that whatever they helps them to better understand. Let's go to our third week here, and it's going to be quite full, and we're going to have Venus going to be at what it's called its westernmost elongation. And what that means when it's in its westernmost elongation is that it's going to then be, as we would say, it's going to, what would it do? It's going to follow the sun. And so we're not going to be able to see it unless we would wait until see it in the evening. Now, then we also have on the 20th, then there is our vernal equinox, and that's when it's as it transits, it's coming out of the southern hemisphere, and it's going to come into the northern hemisphere, so the season of spring begins. And that's what we have. And also on that day, and there is at that precise time for on Earth, then is your daylight and darkness. But for us, because we're not exactly on the meridian of our timeline, it's different for us. So that's why we're a little earlier. Well, we have another constellation here. There is Crater the Cup. And let's take a look at Crater. And we have here and Crater, and notice it's below the equator. It's also below the ecliptic, but it's in the straddles the Tropic of Capricorn. It's further south. Now, notice also, let's take the base of the cup. The thing is tilted over. It's trying, somebody has picked it up trying to drink out of it, I guess. And anyway, the base of the cup, we'll say, points to the south and east. What's the name of the constellation that's down there in the bottom?
Hydra.
Hydra. Well, that's old Hydra, the water snake we've been going along. And this is mythology here, but Crater is on the back of Hydra. And notice also to the left, and that we'll get next month, there is Corvus, and that's the crow. Those two are on the back of Hydra there, and there's some mythology tied in with why they are both there. So anyway, here it is, very basic, and we can scroll on down, if you will, to our next page. And should be, there we are. There's our information, the stars, the ecliptic, the equator, and the Tropic of Capricorn. It's not that doesn't have a whole lot of things inside of there other than just the stars themselves. Okay, let's go back to the calendar. And we have now, we have Crater. We go over to Wednesday the 23rd. And here we have our perigee. And notice we had earlier, we said that the apogee in this case, and looking again for us on the on our apogee, that it was the farthest, the 12th farthest of the 13 apogees. There's 13 apogees. There happens to be 14 perigees in here. So it's also, this one is the closest of all the perigees. So again, the question, with it being the closest, larger or smaller?
Larger.
Yes, it will be the largest moon we will see this year. And then, if you remember, I gave you another way to measure the distance between Earth and the moon. And there was 32 Earths for the apogee, and here it's 29 Earths for the diameter. Then we go on Thursday the 25th. We have our third quarter moon, also a dichotomy. And then on Saturday the 26th is when I will do my presentation for the April constellations. And let's look at the last the 5th week here, Cindy. And we're going to have another time of with the planets, but we're going to have 4 planets that are going to be here. And in this case, by the way, I got it backward for you. My apology. Uh, Venus is with the others. They are leading. They lead the sun. I'm sorry, I mentioned to you they follow the sun. But here's an excellent morning to view the following 4 planets and the moon. And again, here's the time. Mars at 5:05, then followed with Venus, then Saturn, then the moon. And also, I'm going to mention here something about night ends and the astronomical dawn begins. Oh, what is that? That's when the sun is, something is happening about the sun. And then later on, we may be able, but it's going to be doubtful that we can see Jupiter because the twilight is going to be so bright. Cindy, I got that little diagram. Let's show on there about the twilights, if you would. Okay, up here at the top row, we're going to start with that. What I want you to get an understanding, you see I put there for you the sun's path, and we're in daytime right now. So let's look over to the right. The path of the sun is going down. It's from high noon and it's going down. So eventually, when it gets down to, and you see there at the top of that block, that's the horizon. And when it uh, is on the horizon, then something over on the right begins, and that's called civil dusk. And that will last for a while until the sun is, and that number 6 that's inside there, that's 6 degrees, until the sun is 6 degrees below the horizon, the center of the sun. So all of that time is civil dusk. Then it gets darker. Now, civil dusk is you can still, after sunset, you can have outdoor activities and you do not need additional lights to be turned on. But when nautical dusk comes up, then you're going to need additional lighting. And that is there because at sea, then the navigator on the ship can go outside with the sextant and he's still able to see the horizon of the sea during that nautical disk time. That's what that is for. So the sun is below the horizon and it's still light enough that he can see, or she, and get your information to plot where you are. The sun continues to go down, and then what is called the astronomical dusk is there, and it's now dark enough in that astronomical dusk that you can view a star or an object that's as dim as a 6 degree brightness magnitude. And then notice, and that's for when it's from down to 18 degrees on down. And then at the end of the 18 degrees from then on, then true night begins. And night is when there is no interference or whatever the light from the sun, any twilight. There is no twilight anymore. Then it goes on around through the night, and then it comes up, and we go up in the reverse order. We're in the night, and then when the sun reaches 18 degrees, comes up within 18 degrees of the horizon, astronomical dawn begins. And it's an astronomical dawn until at 12 degrees, then the nautical. And then finally at 6 degrees, it's a civil. and at the horizon, day begins and the sun is above the horizon. Let's go down to the middle. For a long time, every time I would look in the sky to the left or the right, I would see what I thought was smog and pollution in the sky. And I went, why, how come, why can't I ever see a clear sky when I look to the left or right? Well, that is because we are looking at the shadow of Earth, just a little bit of it there. And above the shadow of Earth in the upper part of our atmosphere, the light from the sun is making our atmosphere glow. And that is called, and look now down at the bottom picture down there, and you see there is the horizon, and then the darker part of the Earth's shadow, and then above it, that pinkish area, that is called the belt of Venus. And then on up is the full sky, and whether that's sunrise or sunset, uh, that's what you would have. So that's an interesting part. Now, you can twice a day, you can do that. In the morning, when the sun rises in the east, turn around, look to the west, and that's what you will see. In the evening, when it sets, you're looking to the west, turn around, look to the east, and that's what you will see every time. Okay? Let's finish up here real quick. We have then on there, we'll go on to on the 30th. And for our last Wednesday of the month, we're going to have our presentation here, like we're doing right now. And we'll be talking about the April constellations. And there's your link. And then you see on April the 1st, and that is a true statement. It's not April Fool. That is a true statement. There will be a new moon on that day. So Cindy, you want to close this up, and let's talk about then the Facebook page and what other information you want to bring in.
Okay. So if you guys forget what date, can you guys hear me? My sound's messed up. Um, if you're wanting to know what date, then go to our library events page on the library's website, and we list all of our dates of our next night sky tour there. So, you can always find us and always find Warren. So, Warren,
Yes,
like a
ma'am.
trooper.
Well, all
Like a
right.
trooper. You are always ready to show us and enlighten us on all the different new things happening in the night sky tour and
Well,
the night sky.
sure. By
So,
the way, for those who plan to get into the puzzles, um, you need to be familiar with what's happening in April, and that will help you, or in March, pardon me, and that will help you with the March calendar when you're looking at the puzzles and trying to figure them out.
awesome. Awesome. And then remember on the puzzle page, we have a challenge that if you that particular month, everybody who sends in uh, an answer to the puzzles, and there's a little section to send your answer in. We will pick out of there. If we have more than one, we will pick I think it was May 24th, 25th. We will go ahead and do a drawing and have a winner for a prize. But you can't turn in something that already has an answer. So it has to be turning them in before we post the answers. So
Very good.
awesome. Awesome. Well, any questions, Alyssa? She's chatting with us. So if ever you want to talk to Warren, yeah, I see no questions. If ever you want to talk to Warren, then definitely you can go ahead and email him at his CTC email, warren.hart@ctcd.edu. So
Hey,
yeah, also, I just wanted to remind everyone that we have some upcoming events tomorrow night. We have our author night from 6 to 8 p.m. at the library. If for some reason we get hit with a snowstorm, we will post an alternative of what we're going to do. And then next Monday, we have Mr. Herman Brown, and he will be doing an event on being in the military for Black History Month. Then on next Wednesday is International Day. We will have a student, and she has a group. They'll be doing folklorico dancing, and then they will have a South American costume fashion show. That's at noon in the library. Um, and then on Thursday, I'm doing this out of memory. And then on Thursday, we have Texas Brigades in a virtual event that's going to talk about animal conservation and what you can do. So lots going on this week and next week, and we hope you guys will join us for all of that fun virtual and in-person events. So, all right. Well, Warren, as always, thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to our night sky.
there you go.
Okay. All right. So, guys, you guys have a great day. Try to stay warm. Okay. We'll talk to you later. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.